The Fed15 podcast is presented by Serving Those Who Serve, a fiduciary, fee-based financial planning firm serving federal government employees and retirees all over the country. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be taken as financial advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. The opinions expressed by our host are their own and do not reflect the views, policies, or position of Raymond James. Securities are offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services are offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. Serving Those Who Serve is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services, Inc. And now, here are your hosts. Dan Sipe serves as a branch manager for Raymond James Financial Services and Serving Those Who Serve, and Katelyn Murray is a financial advisor through Raymond James Financial Services and Director of Advisory Services here at Serving Those Who Serve. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Fed15 podcast presented by Serving Those Who Serve. Each week, we'll discuss the latest news and info that Feds need to know in 15 minutes or less. So whether you're a seasoned federal employee or just starting out in your career, Fed15 has got you covered. Grab your coffee, kick back, and we'll tell you what you need to know but might have missed over the past week in the federal employee and retiree space. We're your hosts, Katelyn Murray, and I am joined by the wonderful Dan Sipe today. He is in, I don't know why in living color sprang to mind, but he is in a lovely blue. Yep. We do not have the man in black with us today, which is great.
Nope. It is my hope I don't have to put that shirt back on for a while. So, and Katelyn, I'm really pumped because we are in my favorite time of year for sports.
Oh,
hands down, my favorite. And you might think, oh, well, sure, Dan, because we're coming down to the Super Bowl. Wrong. Okay, it's indoor track championship season.
Awesome.
Okay, because here's the thing. Okay. Indoor track is anomalous in the fact that it's the only high school varsity sport that has 2 seasons. But there's also no allocation of resources for it. So you're scrambling all the time to find place to practice, stuff like that, because we're here in the DC area. We just came through a stretch where we were going down into the teens and single digits overnight. You're not going to be able to train outside terribly well. But as you get to championship season, you start getting access to really nice venues. And I know your little bro is big time shot putter. And
sort of accidentally so.
I'll tell you, I'm jealous of where that kid gets to go.
Yeah.
I mean, he's competing out at Liberty. He's running up the Spires. You know, it was always a big deal when we'd go to Virginia Tech. Mm-hmm. You know, or we'd run up to New Balance in New York for like individual competition. But I mentioned before, both my kids coach in high school, so they're getting their teams ready. And it's just really fun to see what comes out of all that training under just miserable, thankless conditions for runners, jumpers, everything, throwers. And then they get into these nice venues. You know, sometimes the runners even get to run on a banked track. You know, so yes, you know, because, and this will get me some fan mail. This is Dan Sipe's code. Track is a sport. Okay. Most other things are games.
Wow. Yeah.
If you can insert the word play under Dan Sipe world, it's a game.
Interesting.
Okay. So track and field, sport, wrestling, sport. Okay. If it involves the word ball, usually game. Okay. Yep. So I'm sure that will get me some love letters from our folks.
Some emails. Yeah. Love it. Awesome.
What are you talking about?
This is not a game. Very cool. All right. Well, today we have some interesting kind of transitioning into Fed world. We've got some interesting information on FEGLI, just kind of a good refresher. Periodically, we like to kind of refresh kind of the basics of FEGLI, because we're meeting Feds all the time who are a little bit maybe not as up to date on maybe all of their different kind of options with FEGLI in retirement. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about this Helps Retirees Improvement Act, particularly important there for safety, public safety officers. But before we get there, Dan, do you want to take a little time to kind of give us a nice overview of how FEGLI works in that retirement transition?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm really going to zero in on the basic for this because, Katelyn, you know this. My heart sinks when I meet someone who's already retired and I learn that they dropped their FEGLI basic. And invariably, the tale is the same. Well, I talked to personnel and they said it's really expensive to keep in retirement, so I should just drop it. No, never. Okay. Our buddy Ed Zerndorfer says the 11th commandment is thou shalt not drop your FEHB. Then the 12th is don't drop your FEGLI basic. And here's why. I'm not saying the person from personnel was necessarily wrong, but they were connecting dots and eliminating the dots in the middle. So with your FEGLI basic, it's a level premium over the course of your career. So unless they change it for the whole system, yours won't change. If you're under 35, it's basically 2 times your salary. The formula is it's your salary rather than the next highest 1,000 plus 2,000. So you make 99.6, it goes to 100, and then add 2, it's 102. If you're under 35, double it. Okay. Why? Well, remember, level premium over the course of your career, that means somebody who's under 35 is probably paying way more than they should. So FEGLI recognizes that and gives them double the coverage. Between 35 and 45, that gradually ratchets down to 1. Okay. This was actually one of my father-in-law's misconceptions. He thought his basic life was twice his salary, and it was when he was under 35, and then it silently ratcheted down to 1 time. And then he also was mistaken about the reductions in retirement, which I'm going to talk about now. So that FEGLI basic, if you have it for at least 5 years, up to when you retire, if you're under 65, you're just going to pay the going rate, what you're paying right now, not 1 penny more, until 65, if you elect the 75% reduction. So instead of dropping it all together, you take a 75% reduction. So if you retire at 60, you're going to pay the going rate until 65, at which point it will stop. Then you will reduce a rate of 2% per month until 25% remains. That was Dad's misconception number 2. He thought it was 2% a year. So from a standpoint of a lump sum that somebody would be expecting, cut it in half and then reduce it 12 times faster than they expected. That's a much smaller number coming out. So remember, folks, 75% reduction is the happy median between trying to keep it all and doing none. Now, you can also opt to keep all of it. And then there is an additional premium cost. I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts on that. That's on the FEGLI website that you will pay for life. And again, using the same example, if you go out at 60, you'll pay the going rate plus this. Then at 65, the going rate goes away and you just pay that. Okay. And it is pretty pricey. If you ever want somebody to work it through with you, we do this every single week for Fed, show them how it works. You also have the ability, so that's no reduction. You also have the ability to do a 50% reduction, and surprise, surprise, the cost kind of falls in the middle. Same set of rules. Keep it as it is until 65. Pay the going rate plus the additional sum. Going rate drops off, reduces by 2% per month until 50% remains. And then you're just paying that and keeping it. So what I'm fond of saying is if God forbid, God forbid, God forbid, you've got some life-threatening health condition that could take you in the next year or so, it's probably a sensible trade-off to keep unreduced in retirement. That would be the only thing that I would see there because it is pretty pricey, but don't ever, ever, ever just drop the coverage. You know, the options, and I'm just going to touch on these very briefly, they continue to ratchet up in cost every 5 years. So you're going to hit a pain threshold on those somewhere down the road, whether it's 70, 75, or 80. Term plans are never meant to be in force when you die of old age. Ever. Okay. They are meant to be a temporary solution, hopefully to a temporary cash flow need. And what are temporary cash flow needs? A mortgage. Okay.
College funding.
Yep.
That's another one.
And I know there's people that will wince when I say this. Kids.
Yeah.
Okay. Believe it or not, there will be a time that you're not paying for stuff for your kids. So temporary for temporary. So, yep, that's it. Never drop it. Never drop it. Never drop it. Now, Katelyn, tell us a little bit, because our friend Abigail Spanberger co-sponsored this bill that cleaned things up for public safety employees. And of course, a lot of our LEOs and federal firefighters come under that. So tell us a little bit about that HELPS Act.
Yeah, so the HELPS Retirees Improvement Act, this is the 2022 Act is really what was zeroing in on today, but this is actually just kind of a re-up of an old act. The initial HELPS Retirees Act was passed in 2006. And what it did is it allowed retirees from public safety officer positions. Now, this can be Fed or non-Fed, just any public safety officer position, to withdraw $3,000 per year from their TSP or from their qualified retirement plan if they're in the private sector, completely exempt from taxes, including penalties if they're younger than 59 and a half, to help pay for health insurance and long-term care insurance premiums. So,
nice.
So great idea, great act, great to help out those public safety officers. But that was 2006. Now we're in 2024. Obviously, the effect of inflation has been pretty significant on those premiums, particularly the long-term care insurance premiums. And so it was sort of due for a bit of an update. So the HELPS Retirees Improvement Act of 2022 is meant to be that kind of facelift for this 2006 Act. It was included as a provision in the appropriations bill for fiscal year 2023. So this went into effect as of January 1, 2024. Basically, what it did is it doubled that exempt amount to $6,000 a year. So now public safety officers can pull up to $6,000 per year out of their TSP or qualified retirement plan and put it towards those health insurance long-term care premiums tax-free. Again, I'll call out, because some of our feds do retire prior to 59 and a half, that if you are younger than 59 and a half, you can still do this, and your penalties are also forgiven, waived. One other important update, and this had more to do really with the private sector plans than our feds, but this act also made it so that the funds, in the 2006 Act, those funds had to go directly from the qualified retirement plan to the insurer, right? So whoever your health insurance is through, whoever your long-term care insurance is through, it had to go from the plan to the insurer in order to be eligible for that exemption. So you could not be the midway stop. This caused problems in the private sector because a lot of those smaller qualified plans didn't have the ability to do that, to send out that kind of third-party check. They would want to send the distributions directly to the plan participant. So the 2022 Act kind of cleaned up that issue there, and it made it so that you can actually pull the funds out, have them dispersed to you, and then just kind of take that deduction when you file your taxes. So one caveat, the law does define public safety officer pretty specifically as law enforcement officers. This includes corrections, parole, probation, and judicial officers, firefighters, members of a rescue squad or ambulance crew, or chaplains to fire and police departments. So, for example, air traffic control would not be included in that group. So be sure to double check those definitions there. But, we're all in favor of helping public safety officers. So, we're obviously in support of this kind of facelift act, just kind of addressing that exemption, because $3,000 does not get you as far in long-term care insurance premiums as it used to.
Right.
That's for sure.
Absolutely. Okay. I think that covers what we had, right?
Yep. That covers everything on the docket for this week.
Well, folks, that's all the time for today. But we'll be back next week to bring you the latest updates you need for making informed decisions about your career and financial well-being as a Fed.
Absolutely. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast on our YouTube channel, Fed Life, so that you never miss an episode. And please do remember to share the show with your friends and colleagues.
And for more information on the topics covered today and more, check out our blogs at blog.stwserve.com and subscribe to the newsletter, The Weekly Serving. You'll get the best stuff delivered straight to your inbox. Don't have to go looking for it. We are so proud of the fact that we've got thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of great educational content, so you don't have to walk around in the dark. Okay, you can find your answers here.
Mm-hmm. And for those who want to dive even deeper into learning about your federal benefits and financial planning for feds, we highly encourage you to join us for one of our complimentary webinars. We have a long-term care webinar coming up on the federal long-term care insurance program. That's going to be February 21st from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. I know that is kind of a hot topic these days. So definitely stop by there to get misconceptions cleared up and just get the facts on long-term care. Another webinar that we've got coming up, Understanding FEHB and Medicare Benefits. That one will be on February 28th from 10:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Normally our webinars are 3 hours. This one is a special 4-hour webinar to cover, all of those details. So we've expanded.
I'll be there.
Yeah, we've expanded that, and Dan will be hosting, so you can stop by and see him. Of course, if you prefer a one-on-one approach, you can always reach out to our team directly for a financial planning consultation at askstws@stwserve.com.
Okay, folks, thanks for listening to Fed15. I'm Dan Sipe, and she is the amazing
Katelyn Murray.
And we will see you next week.
See you next week. Take care, guys. Be well.